What's up everybody, in today's video we're going to be looking at the fall off of Assassin's Creed and the series in general. Assassin's Creed Shadows has just released a couple of days ago, and the reviews are kind of mixed. The reviews on Xbox are quite overwhelmingly positive. It's sitting at like 4.6 as of recording this video. But then there's a lot of stuff going around on things like Instagram, social media, kind of bashing the game, showing off clips of bugs, some people setting it to the easiest difficulty, and then pointing out that the AI is flawed on the easiest difficulty. So I thought it'd be an interesting time to actually have a look and have a retrospective, look at the series in general, and kind of go through them kind of game by game, not doing a super deep dive into them, just kind of looking at where kind of Ubisoft's creative vision was going each time, and then see if we, in today's video, can pinpoint where the Assassin's Creed series actually started to kind of stumble and lose its way and go downhill. Now, before we get into the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. We are currently on the road to 500 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate that. Leave a like as well, and drop me a comment, let me know what your favourite Assassin's Creed game is. But without further ado, we'll get straight into the video, starting with obviously the original Assassin's Creed released in 2007. Obviously the first Assassin's Creed game to come out. Obviously it was a storyline based around Altair, a very kind of famous assassin within the universe, as well as to us Assassin's Creed fans as well. Now, obviously it's the first game in the series. It was the first of its kind of kind. A lot of people back in the day said the game was a little bit repetitive, and it was kind of like, go here, kill this person, go here, kill this person. It felt very samey. You couldn't even swim in this game. If you touched the water, Altair would just desynchronize. Now, obviously, it's the first game in the series. It was released in 2007, which was all those years ago. So obviously then Ubisoft would use this feedback to then obviously push forward into 2009, where we then got Assassin's Creed 2. Personally, one of my favourite games of all time, and probably my favourite game in the franchise in general. So obviously 2 years after the original game was released, we shift into 2009. We move from obviously the Middle East medieval era, and we now move into Italy in the Renaissance era, based on my kind of most favourite protagonist, and a lot of others I'm sure as well, which is Ezio Auditore da Firenze. One of the best protagonists that Ubisoft has ever created, one of the best Assassin's Creed games, if not the best Assassin's Creed for me. I absolutely adore Assassin's Creed 2. I've 100%ed this game on the 360 version, and I've 100%ed this game on the Ezio Collection version as well. I've done the same thing twice. I just love it that much. Now, so far, Assassin's Creed 2 was definitely where you could start to see this kind of series solidify itself, because of how beloved Ezio is as a main character, and how kind of good his story is in 2 as well. What with obviously the heartbreak of his family, the vengeance storyline, him becoming an assassin, developing as a young man, kind of accepting that this is who he is. There's a lot going on. It's a really good game, even for the gameplay at the time. It was really fun. Like, we obviously didn't have a lot of the fancy stuff we have in Assassin's Creed games nowadays. It was very basic, like run, punch, kick. And obviously you had like high profile, low profile actions, which in later games they've kind of gotten rid of, where you could hold right trigger, and by holding right trigger, you would then be performing high profile actions, which were sometimes more noticeable and not acceptable. So for example, you could hold A in low profile to fast walk, and if you bumped into people you'd pickpocket them, whereas if you would hold RT and A, Ezio would go into a free run and then would parkour then automatically for you. So even though the gameplay at the time was limited to what we kind of come to expect from the games today, absolutely a pivotal point in the series. The sequel kind of ironed out a lot of the problems the first game had, and absolutely kind of just smashed through then in 2009. And then quickly then, literally a year later, we follow then again Ezio again into Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Again, a lot of people's favourite, because we get to continue with our beloved Ezio, who's again one of people's favourite protagonists. We get to follow with him. It's a direct pick off from the ending of 2, because 2 ended on a kind of cliffhanger. It's literally immediately picking up from where Assassin's Creed 2 left off. It doesn't waste any time. It is literally at the end of Assassin's Creed 2 where the game ends, and then in Brotherhood it literally starts exactly where 2 left off. No introduction straight away. It is literally, you're in the game, this is where you were, get on with it, and then the introduction comes about 10 minutes later after a little bit of gameplay. It's a really good game. Brotherhood allowed you to kind of build up Rome. You could recruit people as in-game assassins, and you could call for help, send them on missions. There was a lot of stuff with Ezio kind of trying to recover the Apple of Eden because it was stolen from him. A lot of beloved characters in this game as well. And overall, it was just really, really fun to play then with Brotherhood. So Ezio got a second game. And then again, fast forward into 2011, Ezio gets another game. We get Revelations. Now, in my personal opinion, Revelations is Ezio's weakest game in his trilogy. There are a couple of changes I didn't like. There's this tower defense minigame, which is kind of mediocre at best. But it's still a good game. There's still an interesting kind of storyline going on here. It's going into Ezio's kind of later life now because he is an older man, but he is still a master assassin. And we get a couple of new things like the hook blade, where you can use zip lines and kind of grab things. But Revelations, for me, is definitely Ezio's weakest game in his trilogy. It's not a bad game. It's just compared to 2 and Brotherhood, it just doesn't stack up as good as those games do, but it is still a strong entry in the series nonetheless. So at this stage, we're at 2011. We've passed Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, or we're currently looking at Revelations. Now, so far for me, this is fine. The series is kind of in its prime. It's doing really well. The games are really good. Ezio is a really good protagonist. People loved him. He's just finished his trilogy. Obviously, now people are excited to see what's coming next. What are they going to do? Where are Ubisoft going to go now that they've finished with Ezio? So we move from 2011 to 2012. We push into Assassin's Creed 3. So this now is set in the American Revolution in the 18th century. And we've got Connor then as the new assassin and face of the franchise, going against a Grandmaster of Templar Order in the colonies. The events in this game are good, so it's a very kind of clashing storyline where actually Connor's actual real father is actually a Templar, and there are some missions where they actually work together, and there are missions then when they're working against each other, because Hatham is in some regard trying to actually act like a father, even though he's been absent for years. The change in storyline is interesting. There are some cool changes like weather now in this game where things change. You've got a bit of naval exploration where you get your own ship. There's animal hunting as well. And it's not just cities anymore at this stage, so there's actually like open countryside and stuff where you can go into like hunting and trees, which we haven't really kind of had in the previous games as of this point. Now for me personally, Assassin's Creed 3 is one of the weaker points in the series. I played the original of this game and it was very buggy. It still is very buggy. However, since then Ubisoft did make a remastered version, which I've 100%ed. That version works fine. However, if we're looking just in terms of actual release, the actual real first game, not the remaster, was very buggy and very kind of glitchy for me. And I just didn't kind of attach to Connor in the way that I kind of attached myself to Ezio. However, a lot of that did change when we pushed into 2013. So Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. Again, a lot of people's favourite game in the series, especially because of the charismatic main protagonist, that is Edward Kenway. Now, Black Flag and Assassin's Creed 2, for me, are very much neck and neck for my favourite game. I think Assassin's Creed 2 still wins by a small margin, just because I played that first. Because I had that with my original 360. It was one of the first Xbox games I ever played. However, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, does hold a very, very special place in my heart for a couple of reasons. So Edward, first and foremost, is a great protagonist. He's very much like Ezio in his mannerisms, how he behaves, how he speaks to people. Very much that kind of similar kind of roguish main character. On the plus side as well, you get to play a pirate, and it was the first time we got full-on naval exploration. You could go anywhere on the map, you could sail anywhere, you could engage ships in fleet combat. We never had something like this before. It was huge. And on top of that, and this is a very personal thing for me, Edward Kenway was born in Swansea, Wales. Now, for those of you that don't know, I am Welsh. I actually work in Swansea. I live about 20 minutes away. And he named his ship the Jackdaw and that's a name for a bird that used to kind of be very popular in the Swansea area. Not so much anymore, but used to be. So he holds a very, very special place in my heart for that as well, because it was the first, I think it's the first and only time for me ever have I played a game with Welsh representation in it. That doesn't happen, that happens very, very rarely in media, especially video games. So to have a main character of a huge franchise at this stage be Welsh was huge. And it holds an absolutely, like, really special place in my heart. But Black Flag's incredible. If you've not played Black Flag or 2, highly recommend the 2 of them. They're really good games. So far, we're still pretty strong. 3 for me so far has been kind of a weak point, but other than that, most of the games have been kind of consistent, building on the stuff that we like, giving us new things. Black Flag then comes in with the ship combat and the full-on map exploration with your own ship, which is a huge, huge advancement. So then we move then from 2013 to 2014 for a bit of a spin now on the games that we know to Assassin's Creed Rogue. Now, I never played the original of Rogue. I played the remaster about a year ago. I thoroughly enjoyed Rogue personally. Now, there were a couple of things I didn't quite like. So, for example, with Rogue, there was still naval combat, but it was a lot smaller than what we were accustomed to in Black Flag, which, like, it is a shame. It did still control really well, and it was still really fun, but not having kind of the open seas kind of took away from that kind of magical feeling of being able to sail wherever you wanted to. However, story-wise, it was really, really cool because there was such a unique twist where we weren't actually taking the role of an assassin, we were actually playing the role of a Templar that was an assassin. Shay is actually one of my favourite characters as well in the Assassin's Creed franchise. Mainly because I kind of side with him. He was treated like shit by his elders, by Achilles, by everyone, treated like a child. No one had time for him, and then they got surprised then when he turned tail, when they betrayed him, when he was only trying to do the right thing, essentially. And they got surprised then when he turns tail, changes colours and moves over to the Templar side of things, and then just starts doing that, and they got surprised. But Rogue's a really good game in my opinion. In the same year, we also then got Assassin's Creed Unity. This follows Arnaud Dorian, again, one of my favourite protagonists personally, and this is set during the French Revolution. Now, the storyline's pretty decent in this game. It's kind of heartbreaking at the beginning as well, because Arnaud is obviously framed for a murder he didn't commit, which kind of sets him on the path to becoming an assassin anyway. But it's very good customization in this game. There's a lot of variation in play style, and this was the first time combat was kind of really, really changed. So in previous games, a lot of the time you could just parry an enemy and then counter attack, and it would always be an instant kill. It didn't matter which weapon you were using. Most of the time it was just an instant kill. In Unity, this completely shifted to actual proper combat where you were parrying, attacking, dodging. You couldn't just parry and instantly kill every enemy and then just be a one-man army. You had to actually have good weapons for the levels of enemies you were facing. So they were done on like a difficulty bracket, and obviously as you progress the game you unlock better stuff, better armor, better equipment, better weapons. And you didn't just have swords anymore. You had swords, you had two-handed heavy weapons, you had long arm weapons like poles and stuff, and spears. So it was actually quite a nice change. Obviously then we had ranged weapons like pistols and things of that nature. And in the DLC for this game we had something called like a guillotine gun, which was like a melee axe that also could fire like a mortar, which was like really cool. Unity, however, when it released was incredibly buggy, incredibly broken. However, after those bugs were fixed, if you go back and play this game now, experiencing revolutionary France in the 1300s through the eyes of Arnaud is incredible, and it's a beautiful world. The parkour is the best we ever had, and I'm adamant, and I will die on this hill, that Unity had the best parkour in the series, and we've never gone back to it, where you could ascend and climb really well. You could keep your height neutral, or you could descend and climb down buildings quickly instead of having to find a haystack to get down fast. It was the best parkour we ever had, and for some bizarre reason Ubisoft have just never gone back to it, and I don't understand why. And a side note, we had co-op. You can't really play it anymore because I think the servers are gone, but when it was there, it was actually quite fun playing in a team of 4 assassins on missions. It was really, really cool. But Unity was pretty decent if you move past the bugs and the kind of glitches and stuff, and when they were fixed. honestly, it is quite a strong entry in the series, and it's a really, really beautiful world to kind of run around in and parkour. And again, like I said, the park was the best we ever had. We moved from 2014 then into 2015. Bit of a forgettable entry in the series for me, and I've played it, which is Assassin's Creed Syndicate. We actually got a game where we had not one, but two protagonists. We had Jacob and Evie. It's not a terrible game. It's set in Victoria era and in London. It was kind of interesting being able to take over the boroughs and stuff, and having two protagonists with two different skill trees. Kind of reflects now with Shadows with the recent release, because obviously we've got the same thing. But the weapons were quite cool, so you had like canes with knives in them and stuff, and the combat in this game has changed again, so it was very, very, very fast-paced, because obviously at this stage now, you're in Victorian era London. Obviously it's not like the older games where like kind of law hasn't been kind of established yet, whereas in this game, obviously people aren't just walking around with swords on their hips anymore, because it's like the wrong time period for it. So the combat being fast paced, like people pulling out knives and stuff, feels a lot more appropriate for the time period that we're in. The story of this game is, for me, quite forgettable. I actually don't remember what happens at all, and I've played it. The world of London itself is fun to explore. Building up your gang, the Rooks, is quite fun, and taking over London borough by borough is quite interesting as well. But the story's a little bit forgettable, and like the gameplay's decent, but again, we kind of changed the parkour again, and I don't know why they tweaked it. They should have just left it as it was. So Syndicate's not a weak entry per se, it's just a little bit forgettable for me, and I just don't really care that much for it. Now, this is where we then had a massive twist then. So we moved from 2015 to 2017. So there's a 2-year gap here where we then push into Assassin's Creed Origins. Now this is where we really changed things for Assassin's Creed for the first time. There were some huge changes with Origins where we swapped into combat gear and RPG elements and completely changed the formula. And it completely changed. Origins is quite a big game. The combat experience in this game is new, it's fresh, it's different to anything we've ever had with the RPG elements, and honestly, for me, I think Origins is quite a strong game. It was the first big shift we'd had in a while, especially in terms of combat, because obviously we now introduced RPG elements. And I think they worked in Origins. I think they were absolutely fine. The world wasn't kind of... Yes, Egypt was big to explore, but it didn't kind of, for me, overstay its welcome. I quite enjoyed 100%ing Origins. It was quite a fun experience. So for me, this big shift in 2017 was a strong point. They went into this new era of Assassin's Creed, the kind of modern era at this stage, changed things, and they did it well. There were some strong changes here. There was a fresh feel to the combat. There was a fresh feel to everything, really. And it was really good. The only thing I would say, really... I just wish that we had kept the parkour the same as Unity. But again, maybe at this stage it wouldn't have worked because Unity was obviously built up in France, close buildings together. Obviously, this is Origins. We're talking Egypt. There's not going to be tight buildings everywhere because you're looking at the whole of Egypt. Now, we move then from 2017 into 2018. And for me... I think this is where things started to go a little bit sideways. So we move into 2018, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You get to pick between Cassandra or Alexios, both protagonists who are mercenaries and descendants of King Leonidas. So Origins obviously introduced the RPG elements. We then moved into Odyssey, which kind of did the same. A lot of RPG elements, various weapons you can use, a huge world. The world in Odyssey was bigger again than Origins, and for me personally that felt unnecessary. Odyssey felt a little bit too big for me and did overstay its welcome at times because I was just getting to the point where I was getting sick of playing it and pushing for the 100%. The storyline is okay. It's kind of forgettable because I've forgotten it. If you ask me the story of Origins, I can remember, but I don't remember the story of Odyssey, which just shows it's forgettable, because if it wasn't, I would remember it. But Odyssey, for me, is where things... It's not such a weak entry, because I'm pretty sure this game did perform well, but it for me, starts to show where things kind of go a little bit sideways. There was naval combat in this game as well, but it was nowhere near as good as it was in Black Flag, and I didn't enjoy it as much as previous entries. And then we move then from 2018 to 2020, so another 2-year gap again. We then push into Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's crazy to me that this game was released in 2020 and I only actually finished the 100% last year in 2024. That just goes to show how overly big and bloated Valhalla is. Now this game, for me, is definitely a weak point in the franchise. I personally had been so excited when they announced they were finally doing a Viking themed Assassin's Creed. I was over the moon because I'd wanted something like this for so long, and then it finally came out and it absolutely sucked. Valhalla, on a surface level, if you remove Assassin's Creed from its title and just have it called Valhalla, is a decent Viking game at best. It is not a good Assassin's Creed game. The story for me was terrible. I'm so fed up of them pushing the whole Isu storyline that no one cares about, and I would much rather just go back to Assassins hunting Templars. The RPG element stayed, which is fine, and we had abilities again, which is absolutely fine, but the map was bigger again, and there were so many activities, and it was just so overly bloated. There was just way too much to do, and a lot of it was just kind of shallow and meaningless. And then this game then was getting consistently updated for a couple of years after launch as well. The actual main ending of the game wasn't even in the game at launch. That was added like 2 years after launch, which is insane to think about for a single player game. So for me, Valhalla was kind of a weak point. This is where things started to kind of go really wrong, because again, on a surface level, it's a decent Viking game, but on a deeper level, and it's got Assassin's Creed in its title, it's not a good Assassin's Creed game. If this game didn't have Assassin's Creed in its name, I would not know it was an Assassin's Creed, other than the fact that people use hidden blades. That's the only thing that would give it away. And then we move them from 2020 to 2023. So at this point, there's a 3-year gap, although bearing in mind that Ubisoft at this stage is still updating Valhalla like year on year. We move into Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, I actually haven't played Mirage at this stage because I'm waiting. I will be getting it eventually. But this then follows Basim, who's also from Valhalla, street thief turned master assassin, who's kind of, well, the antagonist of Valhalla, really. It's a shorter game. It's a much shorter game compared to Origins, Odyssey, or Valhalla, and kind of returns to a lot of the roots of the earlier franchise, such as stealth, parkour, assassinations. It's a smaller scale, a more linear story, and this game, from what I've read online, can be done on average in about under 20 hours. I'm not sure if that's for 100% though, or just like a general kind of playthrough doing the story. Baghdad looks really good though. The only thing I don't really like that I've seen about this game is the kind of teleporting assassinations. Again, I don't know why they keep pushing all this magic stuff in Assassin's Creed. I get that the games have never always been kind of 100% realistic, but with this whole Isu magic stuff, it kind of pulls away from it a little bit for me. So I kind of wish that wasn't in the game, and you probably can turn it off. But other than that, Mirage was kind of a return to roots for a lot of people. So this wasn't exactly a strong point per se. It was more so Ubisoft have kind of realised they've pushed way too far now in the RPG direction and made their worlds too bloated and kind of overdrawn, and need to kind of pull back and make them a little bit smaller. Now, a lot of people didn't like that with Mirage because some people said it felt more like a DLC because Ubisoft pulled it back so much and scaled it down a lot. So I imagine for a lot of people playing Valhalla, jumping from Valhalla then to like a 20-hour game would feel very kind of off for them. Whereas for someone like me who's played like 2, 3, Brotherhood, etc., I'm accustomed to it. I actually wouldn't mind it. So it did bother a couple of people, but Mirage wasn't so much a strong point in my opinion, more so where Ubisoft kind of realised they needed to do something. But then we move then into Shadows, obviously the most recent release, which came out literally about a week ago now. And Ubisoft kind of went back to the big RPG open world elements again. So it looks like they did it with Mirage for Basim and then changed their minds again. Now again, I haven't played Shadows and I won't be playing it for a little while yet, because I'm trying not to buy any new games at the moment. But it looks decent. From what I've seen, it does look decent, but I will not be giving a proper review until I do eventually play the game, because there's no point. I can't give a full-on proper review for you guys until I've actually played it myself. So everything I see online, even the slanderous stuff, I do take with a pinch of salt, especially when the reviews are actually showing that the game is actually meant to be quite decent. But again, I'm not going to know how good it is until I play it myself, which is going to be a while yet. But that's every mainline Assassin's Creed game done. Now, there are a couple of spin-offs I could have gone through, but I don't see the point because a lot of them aren't that influential to the series, and a lot of them I didn't play. I only kind of really play the mainline games. So like I said, for me, if we summarise in a nutshell, the early era, the golden days, Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, kind of the golden era, moving into Black Flag as well, kind of the golden era, Assassin's Creed at its prime. The kind of mediocre era then is where Unity comes out, and yes, it is a good game after all the bugs were fixed, but obviously at launch, first impressions count for a lot, so obviously that crippled the game's ability to do well. So it's kind of the mediocre era then, where we've got like a good game under the surface, but the surface level needed more time to be fixed, unfortunately. And then we move into the kind of modern era where Origins starts things off strong. Odyssey starts to become a little bit too big for its boots and a little bit over bloated, and then Valhalla then is barely even recognisable as an Assassin's Creed game. Mirage then pulls things back on a smaller scale for some people, a little bit too small. For others, this is exactly what they wanted for a couple of years. And then we jump to the modern era with Shadows, which was just released. Some people are saying it's a really good return to form and it's really, really good game from Ubisoft for the first time in years. Some people are slandering it and saying it's, again, another garbage Ubisoft game and they deserve to go under. But the only way I will ever know that for sure is when I eventually play it, and I will make a video then in-depth reviewing it when I eventually get my hands on it. But that'll be it from me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said at the beginning, if you're new around here, subscribe. We are on the road to 500 subscribers. Drop a like, that really helps me, and drop a comment letting me know what your favourite Assassin's Creed game is, who your favourite protagonist is, and maybe where you think the fall off started to happen. For me personally, I think it is kind of a mix between kind of the middle times with like Unity being a little bit buggy and Ubisoft kind of losing their footing a little bit, but not completely, and then kind of after Odyssey is where things for me started to take a massive turn for the worse because they just weren't listening to the fans anymore. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, much love from me. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye for now, guys.